the amount of fake news on social
There's
media.
so much fake news on the social media these days.
That the
social medium.
I'll give you an example of what I'm what I see in my feed is I'll scroll through my Facebook and it'll have these things that might interest me, from a person that makes a blog or whatever, and they're like, you might like this since I hear you talk about it sometimes to your friends. It's mainly game related or, ironically enough, wrestling related. Even
for
though
you,
yeah, for me, yeah, that's what I said.
That's all you look at.
No, I don't look at wrestling stuff. I will click on rumors or what have you, but it's beside the point. So it'll literally have this article that's just you won't believe who's popping up in WWE tomorrow, and it's
Mr.
a picture of a person that's clearly not gonna go, and it's literally just trying to get people to clickbait. That's all it's trying to do for whatever reason. And then there's all of these other
advertisements,
all these other sites that are this person's analyzing a match from a pay-per-view, and then this person's analyzing the same match from the pay-per-view, and it's they didn't even watch it. The way that they review it and describe it, it's none of that happened at all.
Dude, that's the glory of a website. You can just freaking put up a website and type whatever the hell you want and pretend and imagine, and it's called fiction, and they used to publish it in books and put them in a special section of the library so people knew it was full of bullshit. Damn it.
And the amount of if you search anything at all, if you click on anything political, it is a puke fest of just the most ridiculous stuff. And that is the problem. That's the biggest problem, because everybody needs to have their identity with their politics. We're not going to talk about politics, but the problem with the world is everybody needs all of these identities.
Well, if you can make somebody believe that your opposition, throws people off a fucking cliff for fun, that's an extremist example, but
yeah,
I can't bring up the real example. I don't want to, because I don't want to argue about it. But
yeah, that's the thing. People don't read into things because that takes time and energy, and people don't want to do that.
Well,
and literally, they will just make the headline, current running president eats babies, and people are like, oh my God, and then they share it on Facebook, and then their grandma sees it, and they're like, oh my God, they eat babies, and they share it to their friends, and then their friends read it oh my God, did you see he ate babies? And then they send it, and it's just this trickle-down effect of everybody, and you walk into a building and they're like, did you hear that so-and-so eats babies? I know, I can't believe it, I saw it on Facebook. Yeah.
So at which point does somebody sit there...
If you click the article, it's just a picture of someone's asshole.
So, right, but at which point does somebody in that chain, I feel like previously in this episode of humanity, somebody in the chain was like, the fuck did you just say? What kind of bullshit are you thinking here? And then they're like, does he really do that? No. Does he really do that? No. Does he really do that? No. Well, does he really do that? Well, let me click on the link and find out. Oh my God. He doesn't do that at all.
It's a picture of someone's behind.
Literally, the world has become one big fucking game of telephone.
Yeah. Somebody told somebody, and then they were supposed to relay it to 1,000 people past them, and it just got turned into the complete opposite and then some.
Or it's like the playground in 5th grade where it's like, oh, did you hear that Jeffrey is gay? And it's like, we're in 5th grade.
Yeah.
What did he do? In 5th grade? I don't even think that
he was playing with Barbies.
oh my God. Okay, so I mean, a better direction than I was going to go, but
he's playing in the play. He's playing the main character in Hairspray musical.
Right, and that's the problem we have is that people are spewing these things that are, generally opinion, freedom of speech, okay, whatever. And it just permeates as if it's true. And eventually you hear enough of that and people, this is literally what they call brainwashing.
Yeah.
Like what you were watching in current day America is very, very similar to what occurred in Nazi Germany when Hitler decided, I'm going to, get everybody on my side and go do whatever the fuck I want. We all know what that became. But it's not as bad as politics. It is fucking politics. Like that is literally that's permeated society.
Everything has come to that because we've run into this in the world that we live in with everybody's like. I'm gonna stray a bunch in this. Like when I was a kid, especially in high school. When I was in high school, I wasn't a popular kid by any stretch.
Well, that I can verify.
I was a skater. I played music. Like it wasn't the cool thing to do. I
saw you do like 3 tricks on a skateboard. You need to be careful with the skater term.
So, like I was always like this outcast, basically. If you want to,
Yeah.
So when I grew up. It was like, I need somewhere, I need something to give me that sense of belonging. Like, I need to belong somewhere.
Needs to belong.
But as I get older and more mature, I realize how ridiculous that is. Because I don't need a place to belong. Like, yeah, it's nice to be in a community where I can share my interests with like-minded people that have the same interests as me, and we can talk about the interests, and it's a good outlet to talk. But I don't need that. Apparently everybody in the world needs that. They need that sense of belonging, or that approval from everybody, so they jump on what's popular, what people are talking about on social media, or what's going on in the news, especially if you're working at a big place of work and there's multiple people you see on a daily basis. You're naturally going to start latching on to things that they talk about. Naturally. Which a lot of places is going to be politics, because that's just the nature of what everybody just jumps onto.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think that everybody... Let me restate that. Everybody, like any human, unless they have something seriously, deeply rooted that is unwell.
We all have that to some degree. Everybody has it.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is that every human also needs acceptance and somewhere to call home.
100%.
They have that's a basic human need. It's a physical need to feel shelter, and part of that shelter is feeling accepted by somebody.
Yeah, 100%.
There are independent people out there, but even those independent people find their place.
They are, even then, they have those moments where they feel lonely. They feel alone. They just want something at that moment, not necessarily seeking it, but
right. And she doesn't jump into craziness. I'm going to jump into traffic. But politics at its root, let's break down that word real quick. So politics. Poli. What other words do we have with poli? Policy, policies. That was literally the point of politics was, hey, we are people who establish policies or guidelines, rules for living. Had nothing to do with this nonsense that we've made it in modern society.
Yeah.
But that's what it is now, so we have to play by that game. Everyone's trying to find, where they belong, and then you combine that with the idea of political parties, where it plays on that human need to belong,
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens when you have, well, you think that the house should be blue and I think it should be gray. We can't agree. So let's see what the neighborhood thinks. And then we just wind up with two groups of, 30 people each who think the house should be blue and gray, and we've arrived at no fucking decision.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's sitting there saying, let's mix blue and gray together and see what we get. Nobody's saying half the house one color, half the house other.
Yeah,
all
or
30 of
let's
them,
paint the house gray and then paint the shutters blue.
Right, shit like that. Mm-hmm. Compromise.
Yeah.
Everybody on that team is saying blue, gray, blue, gray. And at the end...
And nobody, like, another thing, too, is, like, a lot of people... I've been finding this more often than not, is people don't get, like, there is no give and take.
No.
Like when you're having a conversation with somebody, like, back and forth, and you're trying to arrive at a conclusion, or you're trying to work something out, like, trying to come to a compromise. It's like, look, I want to plant roses in the garden, but you're dead set on...
Fuck you, I want sunflowers.
You're dead set on sunflowers. Like, can we do, like, sunflowers in the middle of the roses or something? Like, can we go? And they're just like, absolutely not. That's so dumb. Why would you even think sunflowers belong with roses? Are you stupid?
I remember that conversation.
Well, I never even had that conversation.
Are you sure?
100% never.
I thought that was like the garden conversation 2 years ago.
No, she said she wanted roses, and I was like, I don't give a shit. Go ahead.
Oh. Okay, I don't remember it going that way, but
no, I could care less what's planted in a garden, but it's just like just as an example, like that's how crazy things are getting.
To your point, it is not give and take. It's all me all the time. What I want, or go the fuck home. And I think that really truly is rooted in this whole you do you society, where it's like, I'm worried about me.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's not how it's supposed to be, because there's a very, 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 very old saying from ancient Africa, and I believe it goes, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, Habari Watoto Wote. And it literally means...
Hold on.
I may have confused... Hold on. I need to figure out...
You know what you just made me think of?
What?
I just imagined you as Mr. Cheezel in Grandma's Boy. when Samantha goes in and he's there and he's like on his desk doing like this yoga pose, and she goes, "Hey, Mr. Cheezel," and he goes, "Samantha, have a seat." And she comes in and she sits down, like, and he goes, "Would you like this new tea? It's a new brew. It's dandelion nettle blend." And she sips it, and it's absolutely disgusting. She just like spits it back into the cup, and he's like this big like spiritual guy. That's exactly what I thought of.
At any rate, I'm pretty sure my mind just crossed wires and I said, how are the children in African? But the point I was getting at was it takes a village, and they say it takes a village because it does. It takes a village. You need to worry about the village and not about each individual person in it. Your happiness is important, but worrying about the village does not mean you are not important. It means that you see the bigger picture and the collective that it's going to take to make it to the future.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like we get through together as a whole. Like everything that we do affects somebody at some point.
Oh shit, I gotta leave.
Why?
Because somebody noticed my tattoo.
What?
Somebody noticed my tattoo.
What tattoo? Which one?
Are you really going to call attention to it?
Dude, I don't pay attention. I don't know what the hell that is.
You've never seen V for Vendetta?
I have, but it's definitely not in my repertoire.
It's a Guy Fawkes mask.
Uh-huh.
But it's commonly affiliated with Anonymous.
Oh, yeah, I know. You already said that when we had Joe and them on.
Oh, okay.
Because Figsy pointed out your tattoos.
I am not affiliated,
but yeah, like we have to.
It's driving A, Ray.
I don't know.
We got to take care of each other. We have to, like, at some point, humanity has to accept the fact that your fucking neighbor is there doing the same shit you are.
Yeah, everybody's doing the same thing that you are.
And that there is no frickin' reason for you to not give a little when they're like, hey, do you care if I hang out my stinky ass laundry? And you come over and you're like, why is your fucking dog shitting in my yard? And they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't know my dog took a shit in your yard. Can I clean it up? And you're like, no, it already shit in my yard. I
already called the HOA. They're coming tomorrow. You'll get a letter.
Yeah, like, don't be a frickin' asshole.
Because it comes back to, like, you don't know what's going on in somebody else's head. You know, like, that's a huge thing for me that I try to remember when I'm, you know, interacting with other people is, like, you know, somebody says something rude to me and I'm just like, all right. Like a stranger especially. Like if they're rude to me in some regard, I'm just like, okay. How am I going to play this? Like back in the day, I would have just ripped at them without even thinking. Like just blasted off whatever at the mouth and probably gotten into a fight. But now I'm just like, all right, look, the reason that you're being rude to me right now for literally nothing at all is probably because you're having a bad day or you're just miserable for some reason. Something happened in your life that you're currently going through. I'm just going to choose to kind of ignore it. Like, I might acknowledge it and be like, okay, like, give them a little sarcasm, be like, yeah, I noticed what you did. Or just be like, okay, and just walk away and it didn't even bother me. Like, I've gotten burnt by a ton of friends, and, you know, I've been through my fair share of shit. So it's like, I don't have time to spend on all this bullshit.
Well, the matter of fact is, yeah, you do, but you don't want to.
It's not worth the time or the energy.
It's not. Well, and it's not. That's the thing. It's not worth it. But for the right person, for really any person, if it were really necessary, I think you'd do it. And I think that's what makes you...
if it's somebody that's just... Like, if I'm out somewhere and someone's just making it a point to be an absolute dick to me...
Well, there's a difference between when it's time to stand up for yourself and when it's time to deal with a little bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if, for example, the day that Pop passed, we went to the nursing home very, very early in the morning because he passed before sun came up. And then we went to breakfast, and then we went to church that day. And when we were coming back, I had to stop at the gas station, and somebody bumped into me, and they actually shoved me after they bumped into me. And they were like, what the fuck's your problem? Can't you see I'm walking here? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like... You know, at that in my body, in my mind, I'm like, fight or flight, fucking fight.
Yeah.
And then I stop and I'm like, you know what? We bumped into each other. You don't need to react that way, but let's just go on with our day, please.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, same kind of thing, you know, like, when you go through something like that, like when I lost my mom and I was kind of navigating the day-to-day, you know, somebody just somewhere, like, you know, on a game or something, like, you know, would make a joke or something or say something, and it was like, well, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, what are you going to say? I feel horrible for you in that regard because there are times that even I'm like there and I'm like, you know, we're going back and forth and I'll type something and I'll say something and I'm like, oh shit, I'm not gonna say that. I can't fucking say that.
Yeah, like, you have to just, like, realize that people sometimes go through a lot of shit. Like, you know, they could be dealing with the loss of, you know, a parent, or at the absolute worst, a child, or...
Nope, you will never find me in that capacity.
Like, you know, people are going through a lot of stuff, and, like, now more than ever, the thing between your ears is not where you want to be. So it's like, you gotta be mindful of, what your friends might be going through, what your family might be going through.
That word.
The word.
Mindful.
Yeah, just like
spatially aware.
Yes.
Using the main engine.
Knowing what people are going through. Or just noticing, like, how somebody could be off. Their body language, the way that they're carrying themselves that day. Like, you can pick up on that stuff pretty... I don't know what that word means. The fucking demure shit.
Demure.
What does that mean? Because it was like
read the room, except...
It was a thing for a hot minute on, short form content, and I just didn't. I never...
It's the way that humans portray their feelings in a physical capacity.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I can pick up pretty well, when something's just not right, especially if it's with a friend or, a family member. It's just like, hey, man, you seem a little off. What's going on?
You never say that to me.
Because I don't really care about you, Andy.
Fuck!